I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next item on our agenda is a call to the public. If you'd like to address this committee, you can fill out one of the little yellow slips and hand it to the clerk, and then I can give you 3 minutes. Anybody wish to address the committee? Okay. Seeing none, we'll move on to our agenda items. I would entertain a motion to accept the grant from Mid-State Health Network and approve the contract with James Roper for services, and have the board chair execute the same.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion? Is somebody here to present on that? Okay.
We move right along.
We'll move right along then. Yeah, so this is part of the family court grant. That I think it's just the paperwork says 100% reimbursable, and just kind of an annual thing that happens. So, all in favor of moving this on tomorrow night, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the same. That moves forward. Item B. I entertain a motion to approve the appointment of Theo Smith to the Shiawassee County Jury Board.
I'll make that motion.
What?
I noticed that there is a letter from Judge Stewart. There had been a resignation of a long-time serving person, and this is his recommendation for replacement. Any discussion? All right. All in favor of moving this forward to tomorrow night, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, the same? That item moves forward. Item C. I would entertain a motion to approve the contract as presented from LACASA in an amount not to exceed $54,040 to be paid for from the Child Care Fund, and authorize the board to execute the agreement.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any questions or discussion? I don't think we have anybody here to present on that either. So these are pretty standard things.
Yep, well, that's a usual thing.
I will say, kind of not related to this, but I just finished serving on the state task force on juvenile justice reform, and one of the recommendations that will be good news for this group is, if it gets passed through the legislature, our recommendation was to have a policy change so that the Child Care Fund is 75% reimbursable for counties instead of 50.
Good idea.
So that will be very nice, and hopefully that will get through the legislature, but somewhat related to this, but not entirely, but we're going to hope that happens. All in favor of moving this on to tomorrow night, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, the same. Item C moves forward. Item D. I would entertain a motion to approve the replacement of a corrections deputy not to exceed step 3.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
We have a motion and support. Any discussion? All in favor of moving this forward to Wednesday night, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item D moves forward. Item E. I would entertain a motion to approve the proposal for ultraviolet air sanitation from AQSC Air Quality Solutions and Consulting in an amount not to exceed $22,421.
I'll make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion or questions? There's a packet included. There's quite a lot of information there. I maybe one of my fellow committee members understands all of this better than I do. It looks like there's quite a few different pieces of it, different ballast and so forth that would be placed in the jail to help improve the air quality.
Kill bacteria.
And I don't think that sounds like a bad idea. If I worked there, I would definitely want something like that.
It would come from our funds.
Yeah.
From ARPA funds.
I think we got people here that are.
Do we have people here to present? Okay,
Yeah.
this is the
No,
one thing I
excellent.
didn't ask about. Please, go ahead. I'm sorry.
This is Patrick Ryan. He's from Griffin International, the suppliers of the materials. I just want you to understand, first of all, that this is a proposal for the materials only, not the install. So the install, Tim Hill was talking to one of his electricians over there at Ludington, and apparently he's taking some type of new job. Ludington is, so he's got to find somebody else. But Patrick, you want to explain that?
The science behind this is very sound. It's been around for over 100 years. This is something that we use in hospital operating rooms. So after they perform the procedure in the operating room, they clean the operating room, then they turn these lights on. These lights sanitize all the surfaces. Well, since the pandemic, we have started putting these lights into the fast-moving airstreams. And with enough intensity and enough time as the air travels through, we can sanitize the air to 99.5%. And at that point in time, what we're giving you is a sanitized airstream that is COVID-free, bacteria-free, and it's sanitizing surfaces. Because as we all learned in science in 8th grade, all the surface bacteria thrive on what's in the air. So if we don't have any further or any official loading in the air is sanitized clean enough that the surface bacteria starts to drop. We actually have a University of Michigan did a study for us, and they provided the outcome of the study. And we just gave them the lights and said, please do this third party to give us some non-bias. The study came back that showed within 24 hours, these surfaces were non-measurable. So what this is going to do is, in your jail, if somebody comes in that has COVID, the air around that person will not support turning it into a super spreader throughout the jail. And we've been using these in schools, in libraries, and all sorts of different municipalities around the state of Michigan. We also have businesses in Florida we've done, Washington State, all around the country basically. But this product has a company that we buy from out of Indiana that has been in the business since 1960. So the lamps themselves have a 1-year life. They have to be replaced. The replacement is very simple. Somebody goes up on the roof, unplugs it, puts a new lamp in, plugs it in, done. But when you guys have this continual airflow through the jail that you have, because the jail doesn't have windows to open, that air in there being constantly recirculated is a trap. There's no place for anybody to go. So by having this air filtered and circulated across this 100% cleaning, you have basically scrubbed the air and provided a safe place for those in the jail. And that's something that we really believe everybody should have in all indoor environments.
So how do these units affect, say, a utility bill? What is the cost of running them?
They are about, per rooftop unit, they're going to be around 75 watts. So a 75 watt bulb. So at the end of the month, you're going to see, over there, you're going to see probably a $25 increase for the entire month. That's pretty, pretty decent.
Now, this won't get it as clean as the operating room, right? We don't,
No.
I just thought
you
it
will
was,
notice, there will be a noticeable change in air quality.
okay,
When we put these into nursing homes,
Uh-huh.
the urine smell that is normally associated in a lot of nursing homes flat out goes away. So that's another bacteria that's in the air. That's what you're smelling is a bacteria. So by treating this air this way, it makes a huge difference. The other item that it does that I haven't mentioned yet is we clean the evaporator coils. So we're going to be placing these inside next to the coil. When we do that, it cleans the coil to a like new standard, meaning it gives us a better heat transfer. So internally inside the air conditioner, we're going to give you a 15% return on investment. There isn't anything else that you can do in indoor air quality that has return on investment. Normally it's just a drain. So you're going to actually make your air conditioners run more efficiently. So that's a side bonus above and beyond where we're at.
I have a small one at home. Do they have a filter too? Do they have to change a filter?
This is internal. This is past the air filter.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is, something that's an addition to. So.
You mentioned lamp replacement. What does that cost? Is that the same, the
Lamp
whole cost
replacement-
again? Or?
The lamp replacement is somewhere around, I think they're $110.
Okay.
And how many lamps?
How many units do we have over there?
11.
11 units with 2 lamps per unit, so that's 22 lamps. So
So $2,000 to $3,000 to replace the lamps
Yeah.
every year.
Part of the maintenance budget, basically.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
I may.
Yes, sir.
Tim, you mentioned, Ludington would be able to do this, if we got some installation
We'll have to find something.
estimate, even.
He might be able to do it, and I don't know, he never gave it a price, but he's moving, and, the other part of it is that this is something that Brian, the sheriff, started and was looking at, and I was gonna say too, he talked, I guess he has some kind of grant that will pay for part of this, is under my understanding. He's not here, but, that was my understanding, that he had a partial grant that would either pay for all of it or pay for part of it too. So I don't know exactly how much there is to that.
Okay, that sort of answers the rest of I was gonna ask where this started. It started
Yeah.
not with you, but with the sheriff.
Yeah, the sheriff started it.
So, I guess my other question for the sheriff would have been, we don't have this now, we haven't had this for a long time. What has changed that now we need to invest this money? So maybe something's changed over there, or maybe it's just new technology he thinks would be, I guess that'll be a question, maybe we'll have to check with the sheriff,
Yeah.
he wouldn't know that.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
I was gonna say, you may wanna talk to the sheriff,
Okay.
between today and tomorrow or whatever, also.
I don't think this COVID or flus and everything's never gonna go away, so.
This works for every type of cold, flu. It'll even take care of ricin. This is something that they had at the U.S. Capitol after that January 6th insurrection. The reason why they were able to get back into the Capitol so rapidly, all those politicians, all those people were able to get back in there, is because the Capitol building is protected by UVC. So one of the things that we did notice on the day that we were doing our assessment is the roofers were taking some of the ductwork off. You guys are having a new roof put on over there, and they were taking some of the ductwork down, and there was quite a bit of mold in a couple of sections of ductwork. Now, with this being inside the supply air duct, that mold is not going to be an issue anymore. So I just wanted to mention that.
You mentioned the antibacterial natures of UV, is that also antiviral?
Very much so.
All right.
Yeah, the DNA, what it does, ultraviolet sees, it cracks the DNA of any germ so that it can't bond with a protein at all. It's just a done deal. So this is a brilliant science that has been used in the medical industry for so many years. I have it in my home. I have massive allergies, and I had this in my home, and I love it. That's how I got started in this. And it's just a brilliant science, and I think everyone should get accustomed to or aware of how this can be implemented in their home, or in the schools primarily. The schools, I'm a big advocate for schools. Matter of fact, we're presenting here shortly to another school system. I presented to Swartz Creek schools here earlier this year. They just wanted funding is another issue. I think Brian Bigol had a grant of $240,000 for COVID this year. That's what I remember reading. If that's anybody else remember that, I think that's what his grant was. What he does with it is, some of it could be used, I think, for payroll, for special payrolls for different items. But listen, this is a very wonderful product. It's a really good, especially now with the crazy things that are going on. It doesn't matter what anybody's view on, in my opinion, what the view is on how or where or when, but it's here, and we're dealing with it, and it's great for colds and flus, and it's a real, I'm totally excited about you guys putting it in the jail, because that jail, when we looked at the plans of that jail, it's crazy, it's hideous. It took months and months, many trips up on the roof, and Patrick nailed it when he got up and started looking inside the coolers and stuff, everything. So we've got a good plan for you, and it's going to help those folks in the jail. And I think your Deputy Henderson, when he passed away over there, and they attributed his death to picking COVID up in the jail. I think that's what spurred Brian Bigol this year. I think that's what spurred him to move forward with this.
Okay.
Just a quick question. How about mold or mildew that's
not in the ductwork, but maybe on other surfaces?
We actually have a facility that we did in Birmingham, or no, Bloomfield Hills. They had it was a file storage facility for a big legal trust area, and in their basement area, they had pulled back some filing cabinets, and there was quite a. And I said, well, maybe we would do a minimal cleaning back there, but I would like you to leave 2 or 3 areas alone. So we put this in, and within a couple of weeks, they sent me pictures where it had turned to a lighter gray and a lighter gray, and then finally was just gone, just powder. So it's truly amazing what it does. The fact that the mold only can survive if it has some form of nutrient, and without that, it's done. So we provide a 3-log reduction when we design our systems. When I go through and I set everything up, the mathematical calculations that I use is a 3-log reduction. We can go higher, that costs more money, and we can get closer and closer and closer to 100%. However, there is never 100% in any scientific world because of possibilities of error. So at a 3-log reduction, this is what the American Society of Heating and Refrigeration Engineers, ASHRAE, accepts. This is what they say. ASHRAE is also working with the CDC. The CDC asked ASHRAE to come into their buildings, tell them how to take care of their buildings. This is what the CDC uses. So the people that keep us all safe from diseases, this is what they're protecting. So,
Does this type of air purifier emit any ozone?
no sir, it does not. We are at a level of 465 nanometers, and that percentage does not produce. If we drop down, then we can get it. But where we're at,
Because I know that's one of the concerns with the ultraviolet.
we're in the higher frequency. We don't do that.
All right, any other questions or discussion?
I did have one thing. I think before we have any conversations further about funding or grants, we're gonna need Tracy to answer those questions for us. So I don't know what day she's gonna be back, or she's,
I don't know.
that's
I can
gonna
certainly
be,
find out.
yeah, we're, as far as what grants this might fall for, or what's still available.
Well, Tim mentioned that the sheriff seems to know. I think we should, he does not.
No,
Okay.
that's why I'm suggesting
You
Tracy.
know that the sheriff, okay.
I think that's a very good point. We need to know where the money's coming from before we approve it. So, let's say, I mean, my recommendation would be let's move it to tomorrow night, but if we don't have that information, which it looks like we may not.
I can't remember.
Okay.
I asked when Tracy was gonna be back, and I can't remember. It's gonna be this week, but
We'll move it along.
Thursday.
until we-
Okay.
Okay, so maybe we'll have it by Thursday night. So let's move it to tomorrow night, and then to Thursday night. And if we don't have it done, we'll move it to October. How about that?
She's
Okay.
probably watching, and she's gonna be like calling in.
Yeah, send somebody a text. Okay, all in favor of moving this to tomorrow night, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry.
If there are any questions tomorrow night, I can be available over the phone.
Okay. I think all of us are here. I think all the commissioners have their questions answered in terms of the
Okay.
product. I think we're good on the product. It's just gonna be what line item, is there really grant money? So, yeah, okay, thank you. We were kind of, all in favor say aye, did we do that? Aye. All opposed? That will move forward to tomorrow night. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for being here to present very helpful information.
Pleasure.
And that brings us to our final call to the public. Public safety and courts. I don't see anybody new has come in, and so,
Madam Chair,
yes,
Tracy will be back tomorrow.
okay. Updated arrival. This meeting is adjourned, and we will move, I think, right into probably
Tracy.
Health and Human Services. Do you have your Health and Human Services?
I got
Yeah.
mine.
pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, for our Health and Human Services agenda, we're going to do a little swap. We are going to put the Health Resource Advocate Project as item B because we have someone here to speak on it. And then we'll just move our James Amendment Trail discussion as item C so that if our guest needs to leave, he doesn't have to sit through that also. Any objections to that? All right, our first call to the public. Do we have anyone? I don't really even see any public. I think we're good. Our first agenda item A, I would entertain a motion to approve the contract renewal with Convenient Urgent Care for sexually transmitted infection services and authorize the board chair to execute the contract.
I make that motion, Madam Chair.
I'll support that. Larry, this is
Just a contract renewal with Convenient Urgent Care that does the exams for the people that have STDs, and then we provide the treatments for them.
all right.
Same terms.
Okay, any questions on that? We certainly don't have any, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, the same. That motion moves along, which brings us to our added item B, the Health Resource Advocate Project, and we do have Mr. Schulte, correct?
Yeah, I'll start it out.
So moved, Madam Chair.
So I apologize
Thank you.
for the late board packet agenda item. Mr. Schulte and I have been working on it to try to get it ready for you for this month's board meeting because we didn't want to basically hold back. When we say HRA, what does that mean? Well, essentially it means school nurses. This is the opportunity that we've been waiting for. I have the opportunity through funding in the health department to put one school nurse in each district in Shiawassee County. So one school nurse would be made available to each district. And the amount of funding per district will be $120,000. And we will contract with the RESD, which is why I brought Mr. Schulte tonight, to be basically the fiduciary for us because they have relationships already with the school districts. So I've been in this position for 8 years, and one of my goals from day one was to try to improve the school nurse situation in our county, in our state, being that our state ranks 50th out of 50 states in school nurses. So obviously coming out of COVID, additional fundings come available. And we have this opportunity. It's a one-year agreement, it's a one-year contract. So after that year, the school district can choose to continue funding the position if they're satisfied with the results of it, or if the state continues the funding for us to continue to push that out, we would continue it that way. So there's no guarantees beyond 1 year. And so basically the amount we're putting forward is going to be for a contractual position for the school districts. Now this doesn't guarantee that a district's going to get a nurse because as you're aware and as I've been over here talking about over the past months and years, it's difficult, increasingly difficult to hire nurses. So we're trying to set this position up so that it would be contractual with a higher salary that might draw someone that's interested in a change to maybe get out of the hospital, come do this for a year, because obviously if you're a nurse, you're going to be able to catch a job next year, just like you would this year. But we're competing against these travel nurses with extremely high salaries. So this program is separate from what I'm doing with our other nursing grant programs in Perry and in Durant. It's a separate thing. So separate funding, separate everything. So this would be for Perry and Durant. It would be an additional nurse outside of what they're doing for those grant programs that they have in Perry and Durant. And as I introduce Dave here, I just want to say that throughout the pandemic, one of my closest and most dependable partners has been Dave Schulte from the RSD. He's helped me with the relationships with superintendents At one point, we were talking multiple times a day, every day, 7 days a week. So we're not talking so much anymore, but you know, this came up, and it's a really great opportunity. And I know it seems kind of last minute, but the funding just became available on August 1st, and by the time we got everything put together, we're already a few weeks into the school year. And so what we're also, one more thing I want to add, the school districts are assisting in the recruitment of their own candidates. So some of the nurses may have kids in the district, they want to work in the school district, so that's actually helping us to try to identify candidates, and we've already had some candidates referred. The school districts will do the hiring, and then myself and staff from the health department will assist in interviewing, facilitating what the needs are, because, you know, as far as experts on panels. And so with that, I want to introduce Mr. Dave Schulte to you guys.
Good evening, everybody. Or afternoon. I guess Phil isn't in lose track anymore. I had my board meeting last night, so I'm not sure what time of day it is. I want to thank Larry and all of you for considering this. This is a huge deal for us. All the superintendents are on board with this. Probably one of the biggest needs we've needed long before COVID or anything was a nurse. And some districts have been able to do some different projects here and there, but for us, this would be huge. Our student needs for the medical arena have just grown in complexity over the last 10 to 15 years. And not having a nurse on site makes it really hard for us dealing with communicable diseases and other situations that pop up. So we're supportive. We have also worked with districts on health resource advocates for the last year through a separate grant, so we were able to get the ball rolling on some work last year. This is a perfect fit for us to move forward and for them to move forward with the students to make what we have a more of a permanent solution. And we're hoping that as this goes on, that they'll pick up the cost of doing this. I'll tell you that no superintendent is looking to do this just for a year, but we need a foot in the door to see where this goes. And if we can find candidates, and Larry's correct, and we're struggling to find. We tried last year and posted actually for nurses through the ISD's HRA funding, and I didn't get any qualified candidates. We're at the point now where it's just very difficult. So it's nice to have them in the recruiting box with us as the health department and the local school districts. So actually I've talked to all the superintendents in the last week, and 4 of them already have parents that have approached and said when it's posted, give me a call, because I'd love to do this job. So this for us is an improvement in instruction, lets the kids focus on teaching and learning that's going on in their classrooms, so that they don't have to worry about the health side of it so much. So, and it certainly for us, it's nice. We have some haves and have-nots. So there are obviously 6 districts with no nurse. 5 who also has a nurse in another program. Those 5 districts have no assistant, so they're really excited about this. And I'll be glad to answer whatever questions you have.
Any questions you have?
So there's 8 districts then?
8
If I did the math fast enough?
And the ISD then as well would have
Okay,
one as
so
well.
9 total nurses is
9
what we're looking
total.
at.
We have our own population of students that we serve that are, in fact, we have the most medically graduate students in the county are in our program. So
Right.
I have 1 nurse on staff, but I definitely could use another one.
Okay.
Larry, for financially, what is the category of pay for this position?
Well, we're gonna post, I think around 90 to 100.
Yeah, 90 to 100 is where we're looking at. The way it's written, it's up to 120 per district, so we're trying to leave some flexibility for them to decide. Some may hire, some may contract. It will just depend on what we can get.
So I mean that can be a sticking point. I mean, if you
Correct.
could work somewhere else for a lot more money, why would you?
Correct.
Yes, and it does not include benefits unless the school district tries to put them in for 1 year with benefits.
Right. So it's
Contractual.
correct. Mostly contracted. If there's employees, they'll be a lower salary, but those folks will probably want the benefits. So we've left flexibility in the grant to what
Okay.
works locally for that local school board.
Right.
It's a big deal.
If the school districts might hire, might be a contract, might be higher, what's the part of this board that's needed here?
The part of this board that's needing here,
Yes, what do you need from us?
Okay,
Do
so-
we have to approve
Yes.
the grant,
No.
even though
yeah, you're approving
we're
a
not hiring, if
contract.
any nurses hire, we're not hiring them, that is the county.
You're approving me to contract with the RESD, and then we're gonna transfer
Okay.
the money to the RESD on a monthly basis as per reimbursement.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so we're not, in any way, the county's not hiring anyone, the
Correct.
county is not even contracting, the county is just we're just gonna approve the transfer of the grant.
But you can.
Yeah, but, so we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
an agreement with RESD, which you have in your packet today, that
Yep.
should be the top of it, that's the contractual agreement that the county, so it's directly with
Alright.
the RESD. The
did this last year with our HR grant, it worked extremely smoothly for documentation purposes, and then it's a reimbursement approach. We don't give them money until they spend it, so it makes it very clear to everybody.
So from a county point of view, it's all upside, no downside.
Yes,
Makes the decision easier.
as long as they don't steal our nurses, but I never see that.
I'm not intended to do that, but
Other questions? And I want to answer one question that may come up, so I'm not going to be here tomorrow. You might ask about COVID and whether or not that is a requirement. In this money, most of it comes through the ARPA. And there is a COVID component to this, although it's fairly small. The majority of the duties are public health nursing. The COVID that I need out of this is just the reporting requirements that I have for the state, which is basically how many tests did you do? Do you have voluntary testing? And how many positive cases have you had? So very limited numbers on what I have to do with that. So for the return on what we're getting here, this is huge. And if you have any questions tomorrow, get a hold of me tomorrow. So.
All right, do we have any other questions for these gentlemen while they're right here? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think like Greg said, win-win. Don't really see any downside to this. So all those in favor of moving this along until tomorrow signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. And that passes. So two discussions. Are the James Minor Trail, which we have discussed a little bit before. The county does own a part of that trail, a not insignificant part of that trail. While Larry's still here, him and I did visit our section of the trail, and so if you go between what the car wash.
The car wash west.
Yep. So, and what I would like to just point out is that I think a small amount of money is what they were asking for maintenance, very, very small, to maybe just at least cut back some of the brush, maybe make it more accessible for people. One of the things I noticed was a couple of trees across the trail. So I don't know what happens if that falls on someone or they trip on it. Some camping going on there, laundry hung out. I don't know that we really need to get involved in that, but maybe just taking care of it a little bit better would help cut down on some of the things that maybe shouldn't be happening there.
So there's people maintaining that trail already, right? The trail is being maintained by the Trail Authority?
No,
Because we don't own all of it, so who's taking care of the rest of it?
whoever owns it.
So
City
everybody's
of
going out and
Owasso,
taking care of their own
Caledonia
portion?
Township, they're pitching in.
So we wouldn't be using our people, we'd just be giving money. Somebody is maintaining it.
Yes,
Okay,
very minimally,
right.
because of course they don't have a lot of funds to do that, so.
And who would that be that's maintaining minimal gas?
Well, the City of Owasso, the airport, Corona, and Caledonia Township, and us.
Well, my question is, who's physically doing the work? Who is the entity that's doing the work?
I believe it's City of Owasso.
Oh, all the way to Corona? That trail goes all the way to Corona.
Yes,
Okay.
so, anything, Larry, to add?
I don't know who's doing the actual physical maintenance on it, but we do have a pretty good little section of river frontage down there off Raleigh Street, which is behind Fast Eddie's car wash, down to, the Kentucky Fried Chicken Jones area. There's temporary campers staying down there, which is unfortunate, but that's a different issue. But there is an entity there of City of Wausau and Caledonia that are coming up with a way to fund it.
So how many feet do we have? 20 or 30 feet?
No longer than that, I would say maybe 100. It's on the GIS. You can see the section of it that we own.
Yeah, it's
Good
pretty,
section.
I still don't get an answer, roughly.
I would say up to 100 feet.
Oh,
okay.
Might be more.
I'm thinking it's more, I'll go out there with you, Gary, or if you wanna walk along
You
it?
can drive right to it. You can drive
Yeah, I
right to
know.
where it starts, right at Fast Eddie's, head to the river, and go west, that's our property.
Yeah. So again, it's just a discussion item, something that I'd just like us to think about as they kind of rework their agreement. What I brought to you before, again, was just to look at and have input, and I think we inadvertently voted on it, but they're rewriting that agreement. So if we have no interest in maintaining our part of it, then I guess we just need to say that. And if we do, then maybe we need to say that.
I
And
think
then,
if we own part of it, we should contribute proportionally. I mean, how much is everybody else contributing, and what is our portion of the trail we pay for it? I mean, seems to make sense to me.
they had suggested like $1,000 a year.
I tend to agree with Sultan Marley. We maintain our parks. The trail is a community asset. It's real nice to have that trail between the two towns for people like to walk or bike. And if we don't do our little part, and $1,000 is not a massive amount. You know, if we agree to do that and revisit it and after whatever we decide, a year or two.
Do we wanna make a motion tonight to,
Well,
for
I put it on
$1,000
just,
or not? I mean, I just bringing it up.
yeah, I'd rather hold off. I just wanted to
Okay.
kind of get a feel so that when I go back to this month's meeting, I can say, yes, the board seems interested in pursuing, you know,
And
pitching.
you said they're still writing up the agreement anyway, so
Yes.
they're not really ready to say, here's what we'd like to do, correct?
Well, they have an existing document that they are updating. So why, and that's what I gave to you guys before, was the existing document. So as long as that they're updating it, if we're gonna be included, this would be the time. So again, I'm just looking like for a little direction.
What's the liability? Is there some liability to them?
I mean, we own it, so I'm guessing the liability is inherent whether we're maintaining it or not. I
It
don't
seems
know.
maintaining it would reduce the liability because we're making a good faith effort that not maintaining a trail could give us a liability.
Well, I just asking that, you know.
What happens if you get chips in the paved portion or whatever? Where does that, do we pay for that? Have we done that before? Because there was like a one-time pave it, and I think we chipped in, but like, what?
This is-
years
There's
ago?
there's a tiny little portion of that that's paved. Back there, it's
Oh,
all,
it's just not even
it is just
Yeah,
a
no,
wood
it's-
dirt trail.
It's like a deer path.
Yeah,
And there's people back there living,
it appears.
and people walk that path?
Yep.
They, all the time.
Walking and biking all the
It's
time.
used- It's very, very well
I mean, the
used.
Labor Day bridge walk, you know,
So what
100
happens
people,
with
200
some
people
material
walk
that
that.
They walk that same path?
That's the path.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, I
that's the
just,
path. Yeah.
I've been on some of it because I
Yeah.
volunteered years
We walked
ago
from
to,
Irving Front over to McCurdy Park, and I saw the tent that's in the picture, saw it when we walked by, yeah.
because years ago there was a big drain through there with a big culvert on it. My father and I put that culvert in there.
Yep, I've looked at that one.
Huh?
I've looked at that drain.
Yep. I guess, I don't know if it's rusted out yet, but that's been 50 years ago, so.
Well, there's another
Maybe older
drain
than that.
that needs some work back there
It's,
too.
it's more than 50 years. I was more like, I should say, more like over 70 years ago.
It's a great trail. I mean,
Believe it or not.
It's beautiful.
I have friends that walk it every Sunday morning. It's, but the
Where's that?
camping is on our
I wasn't
portion
even in high school.
because we're the ones that aren't doing anything and they know that. If it was on the city of Owasso portion, they'd be like, move along. So,
Sad homeless people still have to live somewhere.
yeah, I mean, and I'm
I
not,
certainly don't know what to do about it.
I don't even think we should address that issue. I'm just looking at
I think
maintenance.
let's just make
Yep.
that portion. I agree with you.
So, all right, well, I will, bring that to that board, and if there's no objection, just let them know that we are open to being a part of the maintenance and see how that looks, and when they get a draft, then I'll bring it back for a motion. If that sounds good, and, all right, Thank you. The last thing I had to discuss, if you'll notice your brightly colored handouts, at a meeting last Friday, this was presented and talked about, and I thought maybe it's something our county employees would benefit from, so I guess read it over, and if there's any interest in that, maybe we can pursue more information, and if there isn't, then I guess we
It's
won't.
worth looking at. I mean, that one-third split is really quite a good deal, where we only have to pay, or any other employer. Justin Horvath was talking about it, $2 an hour to work. You know, the employee, is that what we call it? Employee pay 2, the grant would pay 2, and the employer pays 2. Is that what I'm
Yes.
remembering that correctly?
Yep.
When we're talking about employee retention or getting employees, that could be a nice benefit for not a huge amount of money. Whereas we may not be able to afford to do the whole thing, $2 an hour might be workable. I think we'd have to talk to Tracy and Brian about it. See, then of course there are contract entanglements that could be more of a problem in our getting into this. So it's a complex thing, but I agree it's worth looking at.
Well, and that's what I thought, and I know childcare, those days are behind me, but I know that was very stressful, and not just the cost, but the quality of the care. You know, so, and again, unfortunately, the more you pay, the better the quality of the care sometimes is, so I think that it might be something that, again, like you're saying, Greg, a recruiting tool, certainly help our employees, and if there's something else that I can find out about it, is anybody interested?
I'm on that board and I know about some, you know what I mean, but not the details.
Yeah, there's Justin Horvath's brainchild. I don't know if he's the person to have come in and talk about it, but he's been talking about it for quite a while.
I think some of the problem they're having too is even having facilities that are qualified.
That's the other challenge.
That's a big thing, because a lot of them can't take extra people and they gotta have certain rules and regulations, and, I mean, it's ongoing. I mean, that's what at
Yeah,
the
there's not
meetings
enough
they go
slots
over
for
it, you know, I'm on that board,
But you
so.
might see with this sort of thing, maybe more would open up,
Yes.
people would see it as an opportunity. I would be interested in
I don't
talking
know if
to
it's for
Justin and see how
nonprofits
it's been
or-
working out with the employers who
would-
signed up, assuming some have. It'd be interesting to see if it's run stood up. They've got all sorts of headaches with it.
I mean, from what I've heard so far, it's been good, but it hasn't been in place for a long time, so I don't know. I know several of the big manufacturers are participating. I think Trimare and Crest maybe, don't hold me to that, but something like that.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that if I put it on the agenda for next month and have some more information, we would be willing to keep looking at it?
Not me.
No. We'll just drop the kids off at your house.
Yes,
Just rubbing it in a little.
yes, I think it's a good idea.
All right, so with that, I will get some more information and either October or November, maybe add it back to the agenda depending on when I can get a person to give us more information, and I thank you for that. Anything else to come before this committee? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.